preface this with I have had over 20 years of personal therapy. And not because everything was terrible all the time or anything like that, but because there were times I felt like I was stuck and I didn't know how to unstick myself. I grew up in a family where that was not a valued thing. It was actually something that was treated as though I were weak because I had to talk to a therapist to help figure myself out. And everybody's entitled to their opinions, but for me, I'm very grateful that I had that opportunity, because even when it wasn't my therapist, I have learned lots of good things from therapy. Back in college, I had one of my new friends, somebody who lived on the same floor as me in the dorm. She had the tragic experience of her father passing away, and it happened just before classes started. We were at they had orientation camp for the freshmen, and so we were all away from the university, and getting to know each other, getting to know the people who were the department leads for our majors and things like that. It was really nice. And then I just noticed she wasn't there, and they're like, her dad died. And so when she was back and we were talking at one point, she said, I've got to go to therapy, and asked me to come with her. Just moral support. I was like, sure. So I sat in the corner during her session, and she recounted how it is that her family was trying to push her buttons and goad her into a fight, and she didn't want to fight anybody. She was experiencing loss the same as them, and just couldn't understand why, and didn't know how to keep from being dragged into the fight they wanted to create over stupid stuff. Because, as my therapist puts it, anger will often come out sideways as sadness. Sadness will come out sideways as anger. And that was what was happening for my friend. And some of the best advice I ever got was not pointed at me. The therapist said, well, when they're trying to start a fight, agree with them. They say, you always do this. Go, yeah, you're probably right. And it's like, you're such a whatever. Yeah, that might be true. Conditionally agree with them. And the thing is, the more that they try and push your buttons, and the more that they lob accusations at you or try to demean your character, by conditionally agreeing with them, they won the argument, but they didn't get the fight that they were looking for. And so as we're going into the holidays, and some of us dreading to see that one particular relative who you don't get along with and who's always trying to push your buttons, I encourage you to let them win the argument conditionally, and then let them sit with whatever it is that they haven't dealt with, why it is that they're trying to get somebody to fight. Just be like, yeah, that's your opinion, okay. Acknowledge and accept that that's their opinion, and drop it. Leave it at that. You might be boiling inside, wanting to say something, because you know they're all kinds of wrong. But just don't give them the fight, because that's what they're looking for. They're trying to use you as a pressure valve to release, and you don't have to play that role for anybody. I had to do that once. I used that advice once. when my dad was dying, and we knew it was his last birthday. And I had a relative who came in, pushed every last button they could. And I remembered that advice, and I agreed with them, conditionally, for the most part. Eventually it got to a point where I was like, you're right, congratulations, you win. And then walked away. And later on, I saw them sitting on a couch, looking out a window, and obviously lost in thought and trying to sort out why it is they felt that way. Because they won the argument. I conceded. But they didn't get the fight that they wanted. You don't owe anybody a fight. You are allowed to protect your peace. It doesn't matter if they're blood related or not. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to have a good holiday. And if all they want to do is try and ruin it so that they can express their sadness as anger and not actually deal with their emotions, that's not your job to give that to them. Actually, one of the best things you probably could do is don't give them the fight, because that's what they want. And no matter what point you make in your argument, whatever point you're trying to get across, they're not listening anyway. They're not going to listen, because they're picking the fight for their own purposes. It's rarely ever about you and who you are. It's almost always about them and what they're not willing to deal with. So let them win and leave them to deal with their own stuff. It's not your job to fix other people. I hope everybody has a wonderful week and a happy Thanksgiving.